So in this project we are going to make a currency converter, as I have already mentioned, and this is something we are going to make or achieve in our end result. And we can just type anything in this currency converter. That is, you can see if I type 12 euro, it will give me AED of 49, and it is actually calculated according to a API with the exact currency rate. Also you can choose anything from the drop downs and it will go with that according to our need of the current currency. Hello everyone, welcome to our new project, that is currency converter using React.js, HTML and CSS. Here we are going to learn how can I make a fully fledged currency converter using React.js and with their hooks. So I will show you how to initialize our project from zero to the advanced level of our application using npm node package manager. The topics we will be discovering in this project are the use state and use effect hooks, also the concept of API using in React.js using fetch, and then we can call the response data, and also we will learn how to tackle with on-change effects too. So this is our final result we are going to achieve in our project, and without wasting any time, let's get started to our next lecture. Welcome to the next lecture, and here we are going to start about the folder structure. And firstly I have mentioned that firstly I want to mention that I have created my initials project, and you just have to write your command prompt, that is npx create react app, and the project name you want to continue with. And I have removed already the unnecessary files inside public and src, as you can see. Also I have removed all the unnecessary logos and all those things. And in app.js I have simply given two import statements, that is one for currency and one for the app.css. And this currency component I have built in components folder, and which contains a currency.js, and I have simply called that currency within the div. So that's all about the app.js, and I will provide you the whole css code with you. And let's get towards the currency.js now it's simply returning a div with class name counter container, and this counter container is basically the whole div or whole the component is containing into this. And then I have created one text box div which is further holding one input area. So this will be the white box that you have seen in the previous tutorial, and that white box each contain will the inputs. And firstly the nav container will hold the navigation title, that is a currency converter, and then the div that is from, that is the from which currency to which currency. That's why I given the name class name from and the class name to. And in between these two from and to I have given one h1, that is the equal sign, which will notify us that this currency is equals to that. Now inside these two input boxes will be required, as you have seen in my previous tutorial. So inside input boxes I have some certain calling functions, as you can see some more functions over here. So let me just simplify for you. This is a simple select thing. I will just simplify it for you, just a second. I will give it a simple notation so that it doesn't get confused. So inside this the select has a containing option, and which is the option is rendering without a map function, and with that map function the same logic is going over from the two also. Now I will get start to how we are placing this map function and how we are using the use effect and use state hooks over there. I just have to need you to know that get started with the UI part. Firstly I will provide this UI code and the CSS code totally to you in the notes lecture, don't worry about that. Now let's start from the select options. Now we are going to start that how we are rendering the all the currency options. To first get to know about the options, we just have to know using the API. So for the API I am using one website known as ExchangeRate API. This ExchangeRate API is the basic applications or is the basic need of for our currency API. You can just sign up to this website, that is exchangerates.io, and you can get your access key for the API and give this base URL over here. So there is no difficulty with that, as if you will visit to the website, you will simply sign up for your account and you will get started with this link. and you will have the access key on the very first screen of your account, and you just have to initialize a constant, as I have initialized a base URL, so that I can just simplify the whole string of the URL into this base URL. So the how the URL looks like is the HTTP request, that is the API. I will just give this API link over here, and you just have to paste your access key inside the key, and then you are good to go with that. For now, let's ignore this convert URL. I will make you understand later on as we are going towards this lecture. Now we are getting to know that we are getting this URL within this base URL. Now we just have to render all the things that is the coming from API. Now this API we are just fetching the data inside this use effect hook, as if the use effect hook works. I think you know, or else if you don't know, I will just repeat once again how the use effect hook works. So the use effect hook mainly works when the browser or the application reload or load itself the first time. So that depends on the total condition we are giving in this array. Suppose if we give any array and mention its name, then the use effect and the function inside the use effect basically will run or call itself a number of times when there is a change in that particular array. And I have given a blank array as because this function or this API will firstly call one time or the first time when the apps load into our browser, and then we are just doing a fetch of the base URL, that is the API. As you can see, I have a whole string of this API, and it will just fetch all the data from the base URL, and then dot then is the function that is giving us the response with a JSON format. That's why I have given response.json. So firstly it's fetching the base URL, then it is getting the response as a res.json in JSON format, and then again it is getting the data as then data also. So this line is might seem you confusing, but you will be familiar with that, because using effect or use effect and fetch, we can just go through with the APIs in React.js or any JavaScript. Now inside this then data holding all our API object datas, and inside these datas we will just firstly get through, and what we will get is that data.base is our base rate. That is, they are giving a base rate of, for suppose for now they are giving Europe currency as a base rate. That is, this will be our base price or base currency of our price. That is, European currency will be checked or will be considered as the base currency. That is, European currency will be compared to other currencies and then calculated. So what we have done inside this all data function. So let me first get towards the line number 30, that is set currency options. Now to understand this line number 30, we have to get back to our use state hooks, and in the use state hooks, as you can see in the line number 7, there are currency option constant and the use state. Now what this refers to actually, these currency options will hold the each value or the each significance code of the countries or the currency symbol, that is INR, USD and AUE, Australian dollar and all those things. Now we have a function named set currency option. We will just using this function we can set our array with the API. Let's again come back to our line number 30 with the API. It's basically filling the array, that is the first position of the array as a base array, that is our EUR, that is the European currency, and in the second position it will just concatenate our object keys. That is, the object keys mainly refers to the keys, that is the only code of the currency, and you will get the rates of the object keys. That's why I have passes data.rates, which will simply pass all the object keys over there. Now as we have set our currency option as the first as the base data and the object keys, now we are having all the currency variables or code inside our currency option, that is in our line number 7, and this currency option will hold all the keywords. Now we have to just loop through this array and we can fill our select options inside our input. So by this way, let's get back to our input section, and there I have just looped through inside our select, and I have just looped through that currency options and mapped through it. And each item, that is the each element in the array, we will have given the value of the item as the array. Also I have given a key with item plus a math.random number, so that the key must be unique for each item, and I have passes the item itself also. Now by the same way, I have dependent the second input also, that is the second currency input we will be having inside our project. But here is something, that is both the inputs will initially includes the select option as the EUR, that is the base, as because our currency option array holding our first element as base, data.base. So to get rid of that problem, what I have done is that I have given its initial value to a to variable and to a from variable in both of the select values. So in use state hooks, you can see these two lines mainly refers to a from and set from, also a to set to. And what this state does is that it will set the initial value for the select options, that is the from will contain the base value, and from the to will contain the next value of base except the base value inside that drop down. So what this function is doing is that inside our fetch URL, we are setting the from as the base data, and setting that to as the first currency. And what this first currency is, we are just holding a constant first currency name with the keys of the data dates with the first element of the data array. Let's head towards our next lesson to learn more about how we are giving functionality to our input and changing the currency rate according to our need. Welcome to the next lecture, and now I will start from where we have ended from the previous lecture. So as we all know, we are good to go with the from and to over the use state hooks. Now it's time to introduce to a new use state hooks, which will actually hold the rates of our API, that and it will be named as the exchange rate and set exchange rate as for the function. So this line number 10 mainly denotes that API holding exchange rate. Now how this will work? Firstly, this will hold all the exchange rate, not only all the exchange rate, it will initially be blank, and firstly it will be updated through our onChange function. So let me go to the input box, and firstly when the API loads, the API first currency data, that is our first currency which will be in the API, and that currency's value will be stored in the exchange rate as this function is calling over here. So on the browser load, on the application load, it firstly changes our exchange rate from 0 to the current frequency, 0 to the current currency rate of the API, that is the first key of the API. And then when it will be triggered as, so on change we are going to trigger this function also. So while changing anything inside our input, that is one input is from input and one another input, as you know, it's two. So in the from input, while we are changing anything, it will just trigger a or call a function on change, and this on change will hold every element inside the on change e, and we will just set an use state with amount as e.target.value. That is what we are writing inside that input box, and then we will just trigger the set amount in from currency. Now I will introduce these two use state to you, then I will explain again. So let me just scroll over to the use state part of this two, and as you can see in the exchange, you have properly understood the exchange thing. Now I have also initialized two use state, that is one amount and one amount in from currency. So this amount mainly initialize what is that the amount we are going to compare with, that is for example it is initially 1, as because suppose we are going to compare USD and European currency, so I will compare 1 USD to how much European currency, or For example, 1 European equals to how much USD or dollar it will have. So I will always compare it to the one currency of that particular API, or the user chooses that country code or the currency code. Now I will just handle this amount by checking if the currency is being typed or put inside the from input box or the to input box. So I have also introduced another constant, that is amount in from currency. So if user changes anything in the amount in from currency, that is from the upper input box, this will be set as true, and if not, it will be set as false. So that's why in the input box, we are firstly setting the amount as the value entered in our input box, and then we are setting that yes, this input box is the from and it has been triggered. So I will just announce, or will call the function set amount if in from currency is true. Also same thing is going on in the second amount or input box. It is also passing the amount in the targeted value in the set amount, and also it is passing, but this time it is false, as because this is not the from input, this is the to input, so it will be false. Now on the basis of true and false, we will just call our function. Now let's head back to that part, and here we have doing one condition check, that is I have initialized two variables, a to amount and a from amount. So firstly, if the amount in from currency is being true or is being triggered, then the from amount, this variable will hold the actual amount we have been typed in our input box, and then the to amount will only change, and it will change from its previous value to the amount, that is 1 into the exchange rate we are having for now. And then else the condition is false, that is the anything is changed in the second input box, then the to amount will be as same as that the amount, and the from amount will just change, and the from amount will amount divided by the exchange rate, and because previously it is holding some value. Now you have to trigger this function. So trigger this function for, so till now we can have a changeable condition, that is if I write 1 or 2 in the first input box, then it will just multiply the rates or exchange rate according to it in the second input box. Now we have to trigger, or we have to give some logic, that is when we choose anything from the drop down, it should match that currency exchange rate only. So I have used another API call from the same website, and also with a use effect hook, but this time it have something more. So I have this convert URL. I will just show you what this URL includes of. So this URL mainly includes of the same API, but this time it's slash convert, and with the access key I have given, and you will be getting this, as I have told in my previous lecture, from this website ExchangeRatesAPI.io. Now come to our use effect hook here, that is from line 36 to 42, and it is working as it is firstly fetching, or it is firstly checking, that is the value from. So the from is not equals to null, that is the from input box or the array is not fully blank, or the to array is not fully blank. This from and to we have already discussed in our previous lectures, so I will not repeat itself here. Now we are fetching the API, but this time it has some another parameters, that is the convert URL itself having, we have condition, we have put it inside a variable with convert URL name, and we are passing, that is the from currency, that is the from, and to what currency we want equals, and to equals to that currency, and the amount we are passing is that the amount we have typed in our input box. And this we can fetch the data as in JSON format, and then we can set our exchange rate with that data with 2 inside the array. Now this whole thing will only get called or triggered when there is a change in from or to array. As simple as that. Hope you can understand. Now it will fully work with the drop down and then changing with the currency or anything writing in the input box in either input boxes. So by this way we can complete our project or conclude this way, and let's end this project over here. Hope you have understood clearly. Thank you.